We are officially halfway into 2025, and already WWE has been on fire. Not only do we have multiple new champions in the form of guys like Ethan Page, Trick Williams, obviously part of TNA. But also women like JC Jane, Zelina Vega, and many others. We even have also seen some incredible historic moments, including the historic final time between Randy Orton and John Cena. But I feel like as if this year, there have been a lot of championships in WWE that have regained their credibility, as in they've regained their, what would be the better term? I guess the better term, or lack thereof, would indeed be credibility, but have regained their, oh my god, what would be a good word for it? Prestige, if you will. There you go. Have regained their prestige. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 5 championships that have regained their credibility, or their prestige, if you will, a lot more than others. But there is a huge honorable mention, which we will get to a little later on in this video. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it with the very first championship that has regained its credibility / its prestige, and it is none other than the NXT Championship. Now everyone knows that the NXT title has had a lot of rich history over the years. Guys like Seth Rollins, the first ever champion. Guys like Big E. Guys like Aleister Black, Samoa Joe, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bobby Roode, Drew McIntyre, Andrade. All these guys and more that I mentioned, all at one point in their careers were NXT champion. However, some people believed that when Trick Williams became NXT champion last year at Spring Break-In, people believed that his reign was a bit unorthodox, and some people believed that he was never ready to be NXT champion. And not only that, but the moment that he lost the NXT championship to All Ego Ethan Page, that was where the NXT championship lost its credibility. Even when Trick Williams regained the title on the CW premiere of NXT last October in Chicago, some people believe that the NXT championship never regained its credibility. That was until Obafemi showed up. The moment he won the men's Iron Survivor and became NXT champion was when the prestige and the legacy of the NXT title had been restored. And some people believe that Obafemi is a much more better champion than Trick Williams, and in a way, I kind of have to agree. And the only reason it has nothing to do with Trick's lack of in-ring skills or his mic skills or anything like that. No, it's the fact that Trick Williams had been a part of NXT for almost 5 years now? Literally 5 years and it took him it took him this long to become NXT champion. Think about another good example would be none other than Adam Cole, baby. He had been with NXT for only 2 years. 2 years into his time in NXT, and think about what he had done. NXT Tag Team Champion, Dusty Cup winner, Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic winner, and also the first ever NXT North American Champion. It took him almost 3 years. It took him almost 3 years to finally become NXT champion, and even he was the one that re-elevated the title to heights unimaginable, being, literally being the fighting champion that he said he would be. And to be fair, he was indeed a fighting champion. Don't get it twisted. Trick Williams was a fighting champion, but the moment he lost the title and at New Year's Evil back in January, that was when his momentum slowly started to go down, and the fans slowly started to forget about Trick Williams, because now it was all about Oba Femi. Now that Oba Femi is champion, I feel like it's if the NXT title, whoever takes the title off of Oba Femi is definitely going to carry that title, knowing that Oba Femi created a legacy for that title that not even a guy like Seth Rollins could have ever dreamed of, or a guy like Tommaso Ciampa, or a guy like Johnny Gargano. None of these guys would ever imagine that the NXT Championship would be at the heights that it's already at now. And think about this. Think about this. Last week at Battleground, Oba Femi proved that he can hang with some of the best that NXT had to offer when the deck is stacked against him. And Miles Bourne, trust me, Miles Bourne stacked the deck against Oba Femi, but obviously we know Miles Bourne was not prepared. He wasn't prepared for the onslaught of Oba Femi. And we all saw it. We all saw it this past Sunday at Battleground, proving that Miles Bourne, yes, he has the capabilities of becoming an NXT champion. Sunday night was not his night. So I truly believe that Oba Femi as NXT champion is definitely going to take the title to heights no one ever saw coming. Which brings me to the second championship that has regained its legacy, its prestige, and its credibility, and it is none other than the Men's Intercontinental Championship. A title that dates all the way back to 1979, if my memory serves right, when Pat Patterson first became champion in a tournament in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Over the years, more than three dozen Hall of Famers have held that title and re-elevated it to heights unimaginable. So some of the most notable stars, some of the most notable superstars that brought prestige into that championship are superstars the likes of Randy Savage, the Ultimate Warrior, Roddy Piper, Bret the Hitman Hart, Shawn Michaels, The Rock, Triple H, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. Who else can I name? Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kane, Rikishi, Rob Van Dam, Edge, Booker T, just to name a few. Those guys took the Intercontinental title and re-elevated it to heights like nobody would have ever saw coming. However, some people believe that the title lost its credibility during the pandemic when Sami Zayn became champion. Think about that, guys. Think about that. Sami Zayn winning the Intercontinental Championship literally mere days before COVID had struck. Think about that. And the moment he left WWE because of COVID was when the title lost its credibility. Do not get it twisted, okay? Do not get it twisted. Guys like Apollo Crews, Big E, AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Shinsuke Nakamura, guys like Ricochet, all have indeed held that championship during the pandemic, even post COVID, you know. But sorry guys, I actually have a cough drop in my mouth. Anyway, the way I see it, the title had regained its credibility relatively slowly the moment Gunther became champion. The moment he became champion was the moment that, yes, he did bring honor and prestige back into the title. But by the time Sami Zayn became a four-time champion was when he realized, I need to be as much of a fighting champion as Gunther was, and he did. He became such an incredible champion that he had no issues dropping the title to a guy like Braun Breaker, and now it's in the hands of Dirty Dominic Mysterio, which a lot of people believe that he's going to be a fighting champion, and I believe it. I truly believe that Dominic Mysterio is definitely going to be a fighting champion, and re-elevating that title to heights not even Rey Mysterio, his own father, or even his uncle Eddie Guerrero could have ever dreamed of. And that's saying a lot, considering the fact that Eddie Guerrero has can't speak, has won that title on numerous occasions. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, give me 1 second here. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Eddie Guerrero actually held that title, I believe, 3 times, if I'm right. Eddie Guerrero, here we are. If I'm not mistaken, here we are. Oh, 2-time. Okay. I thought so. So he's actually a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. He's a former U.S. champion, a former WWE champion, a 4-time tag team champion. So the guy really had done everything that there is to do in WWE. So the fact that Eddie Guerrero was able to take that title and elevate it to heights he himself never would have dreamed of during his time, absolutely incredible. So I have no doubt in my mind that Dirty Dom is definitely going to take that title and be a fighting champion. As far as how long, who knows? Only time will tell. Now, moving on to the third championship, which is actually, if you can believe it, if you can actually believe this, none other than the WWE Championship. As crazy as it sounds, John Cena has indeed done what he said he was going to do, and that was bring credibility back into the WWE title. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. You guys are thinking, wait a minute here, hang on. Roman Reigns brought credibility into that title. Why the fuck are you bringing up John Cena? Don't get it twisted. I completely agree. Roman Reigns, as champion, did bring credibility into that title, and we all know that, yes, every time he did show up, he would always defend the title. No doubt about it. But some people believe that credibility was lost when Cody Rhodes finished the story. Do I believe it? No, I honestly don't believe it, because Cody Rhodes was a fantastic champion. But with John's, excuse me. There we go. There we go. Excuse me. With Cena now as WWE champion, some people believe that he has been able to bring credibility back into the championship the same way that he did with all the other 16 times that he was WWE champion. And I have no doubt in my mind that however long he holds on to that title during this farewell tour that he's doing, I have no doubt in my mind that when he drops it, he's gonna drop the title knowing full well that championship has indeed regained its credibility, because John Cena is as advertised. He is the last real champion. Does that mean that I still cheer for him? No. At this point in time, no. At this point in time right now, no. I don't cheer for him. I don't even boo him, honestly. I just have a lot of respect for Cena to not only understand to understand his side of the story, but to also want someone to take the title off of him, if you will. And I have no doubt in my mind that Cody Rhodes does, he is owed a rematch for the title. But who knows? Maybe the WWE title can be in the hands of someone different. I mean, there is the men's Money in the Bank ladder match coming up. So whoever wins that briefcase, Cena and Cody better be prepared, because there's no telling what can happen next with that title. But I truly believe that John Cena, ever since winning the title almost a couple months ago at WrestleMania, I've got no doubt in my mind that John Cena did indeed bring credibility back into that title, the same way that Roman Reigns did when he was when he first became champion, almost literally 5 years ago, which is mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. The fourth championship that has regained its credibility, in my opinion, is none other than the NXT Women's Championship. And the crazy thing about this is that this championship has a lot of rich history. Women like Paige, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Bayley, Asuka, Shayna Baszler, Ember Moon, Io Sky, Raquel Rodriguez, Rhea Ripley, Who else? Roxanne Perez, Lyra Valkyria, just to name a few. All these ladies that I mentioned, all became NXT Women's Champion. In fact, the NXT Women's title has had, I believe, Women's Championship. Here we are. The NXT Women's title has had at least it has had a combined 20. I believe it has had at least 20 champions overall. Yeah, literally 20 champions overall, including women such as Shayna Baszler, Asuka, Mandy Rose, Roxanne Perez, Charlotte Flair, Paige, Io Sky, Sasha Banks, Ember Moon, Tiffany Stratton, Rhea Ripley, Kairi Sane, and then of course the three most recent champions, Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, and of course our new champion, JC Jane. Interestingly enough, the only three women that have held the title more than once are Shayna Baszler, Charlotte Flair, and Roxanne Perez, in that order. Funny enough, Shayna Baszler combined days as champion is almost 550 days, which means that in a single reign, the longest reign is Asuka at 522 days, which is incredible. So you're probably asking yourselves, how in the hell has the NXT Championship regained its credibility? It all has to do with Mandy Rose. Now don't get it twisted. Obviously, yes, obviously Mandy had such an incredible reign as NXT Women's Champion, holding on to the title for 413 days, making that the third longest reign in NXT history. Even in spite of her being such a great champion, fans still doubted her. They still doubted her credibility. They doubted her in-ring capabilities, because of the fact that she was once a part of the show called Tough Enough, and she was ultimately eliminated from that competition, but ended up on NXT in the end. She ended up getting called up to the main roster several months later in 2017, and some people believe that it was too soon. However, it ended up being too soon, as she ended up back in NXT, becoming NXT Women's Champion. During that 413-day reign as champion, everybody believed that she was not going to be a fighting champion, and for the most part, yes, she was a fighting champion. But the way that the title lost its credibility was the fact that Mandy Rose, not all the time, but a lot of the times, she would back out. She would try to back out of championship challenges, but every time she was forced into those championship matches, she would always have the rest of Toxic Attraction help her out, which obviously Toxic Attraction included herself, JC Jane, and of course Gigi Dolan, who is no longer with WWE, unfortunately, but it's all good. The way the title regained its credibility was when Julia became champion at New Year's Evil. She had held the title for 63 days, and even in spite of hanging on to the title for those 2 months, she became such a dominant champion. And then when she dropped the title to Stephanie Vaquer, she became just as much of a dominant champion as Julia was, and even had an incredible showing at Stand and Deliver this past April in Vegas. This proves that the NXT Women's Division has been on fire, and it's been non-stop action when it comes to the NXT Women's Division. Now that the title is in the hands of JC Jane, one has to ask if she can be the woman to bring credibility to continue bringing back the credibility into the NXT Women's Championship. And in my opinion, I feel like yes, she definitely has that capability. But the only way that she could is if Fatal Influence went their separate ways. Because we've seen over the last like what months I want to say, ever since Stand and Deliver, Fallon Henley has started to despise JC Jane a little bit, and it seems as if Fatal Influence may end up splitting after all this time. Excuse me. Which is very possible, and I can totally see it. I can totally see Fallon Henley being the woman to stab JC Jane in the back, which could buy into the question: who becomes what? Does Fallon become the heel in that story, or does JC Jane remain the heel? Does Fallon Henley turn babyface, or does JC Jane become the babyface? And the way I see it, I feel like it's JC Jane as the babyface, but the way I see it, JC Jane's a natural born heel. And usually it's the natural born heels that end up becoming more dominant champions than the natural born baby faces, if that makes sense. So I have no doubt in my mind that JC Jane is definitely going to be a fighting champion no matter what. Which brings us to the final championship that has had its credibility back. And this one I'm gonna get a lot of heat for. I'm probably gonna get some heat for this. But in my opinion, it has to be the United States Championship. This title actually has had a lot of great champions over the years. In fact, let's see. Here we are, list of U.S. champions. So think about this, right? The United States Championship has had literally 104 different champions, including 3 dozen of those being Hall of Famers, including guys like Lex Luger, Ric Flair, Greg Valentine, Blackjack Mulligan, Rick Rude, Nikita Koloff, Sergeant Slaughter, Magnum TA, Wahoo McDaniel, Barry Windham, and even also also champions that are still with WWE currently, including guys like John Cena, guys like Sheamus, guys like Austin Theory, The Miz, Rusev, Booker T, Logan Paul, Shinsuke Nakamura, Stone Cold, Cesaro, Sting, just to name a few. AJ Styles, a 3-time champion. Damian Priest. Even now, it's in the hands of the current champion, Jacob Fatu. Now, this championship dates all the way back to 1975, when the first ever champion was none other than Harley Race. Actually, was none other than Harley Race, and the only person that has held that U.S. title more times than anyone else in professional wrestling, whether it was WWE or WCW, was none other than Ric Flair with 6 U.S. title reigns. The most reigns overall, combined overall, is Lex Luger, and among all 5 reigns, held the title for 950 days. Some people believe that when Logan Paul became champion, that was when the title lost its credibility, because of the fact that the U.S. title was in the hands of a guy who rarely showed up. He showed up part-time because of the fact that he had his own ventures going on. He had his own podcast. He had his drink line, his drink line, Prime. He had a bunch of collaborations that he was working on, working with guys like KSI, IShowSpeed, Mr. Beast, and so many others. But the moment the title regained its credibility was the moment LA Knight became champion. The moment he became champion, ended up losing the title to Shinsuke Nakamura, and then regaining it after that, and then put it in the hands of Jacob Fatu, was when the title had regained all of its credibility. Some people believe that the U.S. title should have been in the hands of someone who was not Logan Paul. And the way I see it, in a way, I kind of agree, because Logan Paul held his title for 273 days, which was actually the longest reign of the current format of WWE. However, Dean Ambrose of the modern era of WWE held his title for 350 days, almost a full calendar year. Hardly anyone's been able to do that in this current format of WWE, because under this current format, under the modern era, when it comes to the U.S. title, people usually hold on to the title for at least sometime between 3 to 7 months at best. At best. So the way I see it, with LA Knight being a 2-time champion and then dropping it to Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania, this proves that the U.S. Championship was missing that credibility. It was missing that prestige, and with it being in the hands of Jacob Fatu, I have no doubt in my mind that the legacy of the United States title is definitely going to continue. But as long as Jacob Fatu still roams with Solo Sikoa, with Tama Tonga, with Tongaloa, and of course with none other than JC Mateo, or Jeff Cobb, if you guys remember that name, Jacob Fatu is going to lose credibility into the U.S. title. And because that the fans have been behind Jacob Fatu over the course of the last several months or so, I have no doubt in my mind that Jacob Fatu will be a fighting champion no matter what. Which brings us to the honorable mention of championships that have regained their credibility. And this one, I'm probably gonna get some heat for it, but I believe it is the WWE Tag Team titles over on SmackDown. The way I see it, right? When it was known as the SmackDown Tag Team Championship, those titles were held by teams like the Usos, teams like the New Day, the Wyatt family, just to name a few. Excuse me. And when you look at last year at WrestleMania 40 in Philly, the titles split. The Raw Tag Team titles and the SmackDown Tag Team titles had went their separate ways finally, and they were turned back into the World Tag Team Championship and the WWE Tag Team Championship, to which the World Tag titles were in the hands of Awesome Truth, and then of course the WWE Tag titles were in the hands of A-Town Down Under. But the way I see it, because that A-Town Down Under didn't really defend the titles all that much, some people believe that was where the credibility was gone. I don't see it that way. The titles' credibility was gone when it was in the hands of the new bloodline ran by Solo Sikoa. The moment those titles were in their hands, we knew full well that the credibility was gone. But with the Street Profits now as champions, yes, obviously they will be fighting champions, but the only way that the credibility of the tag titles can be regained is if the tag titles get defended more frequently on SmackDown and potentially on the PLEs. As long as that happens, I have no doubt in my mind that those tag titles are definitely going to have a lot of prestige. But until then, there's no telling what will happen next. But with that being said, that'll do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more WWE topic videos in the future, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and as always, make sure you guys are following me on all of my social media. All of my ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.